Okay, so I think a lot of eSIM brands charge a premium for what is, at the end of the day, just data. It doesn't really matter who sells it to you, that's all it is. And that's why I wanted to show you ChillSIM, because their prices are seriously impressive. And in my research, I found that they were around 15 to 25% cheaper than the bigger brands. So what's the catch? Does this provider have poor coverage? Is support impossible to reach? Well, that's what we're going to test in this video. We're going to find out if these low prices reflect a weaker product, or unlike some of their competitors, ChillSIM is simply charging a fair price while still offering a good service. So they work in over 190 countries, and you can manage everything through their app, which is available on both iOS and Android. In terms of plans, you've got destination specific, regional, and global, so there's a decent amount of flexibility depending on how you travel. And data allowances usually start at 1 GB and go all the way up to 100, while validity periods range from 7 to 365 days. Importantly, that validity period doesn't begin when you install the eSIM. It only starts once you connect to a supported network at your destination. So if you want to get everything set up before you leave, you can do that without worrying that you're wasting days before the trip has even started. ChillSIM doesn't currently offer unlimited, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. In the eSIM market, unlimited rarely means unlimited speeds, and in most cases, there's a fair usage limit. And once you hit it, speeds are reduced. So in some ways, having a clearly defined data allowance is actually more transparent. One feature I do like is that ChillSIM rewards repeat customers. And this I think is a good thing, right? Because loyalty often isn't rewarded. So after your second purchase, you get 5% cashback added to your in-app wallet, which you can then use against future orders. It's not a massive saving, but it is a nice extra if you end up using them more than once. They also have a referral program where you can earn €3 for every friend you invite. They also get 20% off their purchase. And I think that's going to be especially great for couples traveling together who both need an eSIM, because you can get that €3 credit and an additional 20% discount. Support is available through WhatsApp and email, with WhatsApp being the best experience. I went through the app and was speaking to a real person within minutes. Email was also very quick, to be fair, with a response time of 18 minutes. Okay, so I want to talk to you about pricing, because I think you're going to be pretty surprised by just how affordable ChillSIM are, and I've spent a fair bit of time comparing them against Airalo, Nomad, and Saily, and across popular destinations, including the UK, Japan, the USA, Thailand, and Europe. And just a quick note before we get into the numbers, ChillSIM prices its plans in euros, so I've converted everything into US dollars to make the comparison fair and consistent. And for a 1 GB 7-day plan, which I think is probably the minimum most people will consider for a shorter trip, ChillSIM comes out as the cheapest in every market I looked at. In some cases, the gap is small, but they are consistently the lowest price. Thailand in particular stands out, where they come in at $2.70 versus Nomad at $5. For a 10 GB 30-day plan, ChillSIM is still extremely competitive, although Nomad deserves a shout out, especially in the USA and Thailand. So I wouldn't say ChillSIM completely dominates this category, but overall they are still one of the most affordable options and usually the cheapest. And then there's Europe, which for me is the most striking number in this entire comparison. They charge $15 for 10 GB, and that's before applying my coupon TMoney25, which gives you 25% off. That brings the price down to around $11. And if you are tempted to get one, I've put a link in the description box. That's an affiliate link, so by using it, you'll be supporting myself and the channel. And definitely don't forget to use the code TMoney25. I do think it's important to mention that ChillSIM's Europe plan covers 36 countries, whereas Airalo covers 42. So there is a coverage difference here, and that is something you should check before buying, depending on where you're traveling. And of course, other providers offer additional features. Saily, for example, has things like virtual location. But if your priority is simply to get an affordable eSIM, ChillSIM is clearly one of the cheapest options on the market, and not just in Europe, but across the board. Of course, pricing only matters if the eSIM actually works, and honestly, I'm a bit skeptical given how affordable they are, so let's go ahead and buy one, install it, and put it to the test. I've selected a UK eSIM and entered TMoney25, which brought down the total to €6.50. And one thing worth mentioning here is that ChillSIM bills in euros. So if that isn't your local currency, it's definitely worth using a card with good foreign exchange rates. In my case, I used my Wise business card. Once you bought the eSIM, you'll also get the option to enable auto top-up. That could be useful if you're worried about running out of data while you're away. And then from there, the installation is pretty straightforward. You just tap install, then activate, and then continue. And this activation step can take a moment, so please don't close the window or toggle away, because doing so can interrupt the process. Once it's installed, you'll see the option to set it up for use either at home or abroad. And for this one, you'll want to choose data only since ChillSIM doesn't currently offer calls and texts. After that, you just need to head into your phone's mobile settings, find the new eSIM, and I'd recommend renaming it straight away to something that's easier to recognize. Now go back, toggle turn on this line, which is like switching it on, and then go back to mobile service, select mobile data, choose your new eSIM, and double check and allow mobile data switching is toggled off. Last thing, go back to mobile service, select your new eSIM, and toggle data roaming to on. And that's basically it. Your eSIM is now ready to use, and the plan won't actually activate until it connects to a supported network at your destination. Okay, good morning everybody, and welcome to the British countryside, where we're in a pretty remote location currently testing this ChillSIM eSIM. And something I'd noticed immediately is that it connects to both Vodafone and O2, which means it has multi-network connectivity. That's something that ChillSIM doesn't really advertise on their website. I didn't realize until testing, and it's also something that a lot of eSIM providers don't offer. And it's also going to be incredibly useful, especially if you're somewhere like I am right now, which is pretty remote, where, you know, one carrier or one network might have poor signal. So it's always good to know that you have the potential to connect to another one if it's better, if the signal is stronger. Let's test this eSIM and see how it does on a standard speed test. Not sure if you can see that. I'll do a better job of showing you, but we've got 5G. Whenever I go to do a speed test, the first thing I look at is the bars at the top of my phone, hoping that we have signal. Oh, it's cold. Oh, blew my neck. Okay, yeah, wow. Look at that, 566 megabits per second. What? There must be a 5G mast somewhere. No? What's ironic is that I did some speed testing back in my office where I assumed it would be faster, and I was actually getting download speeds of like 60 to 70 megabits per second, which I honestly was quite impressed with. The upload speeds were a bit weaker at home, but I was able to tether the eSIM, which ChillSIM does support, and I tried uploading a 250 megabyte file, and it took just over 5 minutes. Now, compared to a normal fiber connection, that's obviously not fast, but I think for a low-cost travel eSIM in a room surrounded by concrete, I think that's a solid result. So overall, I think there's quite a lot to like about ChillSIM. The first obvious pro is coverage and connectivity. You know, the speeds were fantastic in the remote testing, and back here in my office they were good. And I think the fact that ChillSIM supports multi-network connectivity really makes them a compelling choice. Support is also positive, and of course the price. You know, this is, in my opinion, one of the best selling points of ChillSIM, because they are pretty much one of the best value providers I've tested. And for negatives, I mean, they don't currently offer traditional calls or texts, and they don't have unlimited plans, and there's also not a lot of social proof yet. They don't have a Trustpilot, and the App Store doesn't have enough ratings yet, and I think that might put people off. But honestly, when you look at how affordable these eSIMs are, especially compared to the bigger brands, and the fact that you are gaining access to multiple networks, which, you know, brands like Airalo, for example, they don't offer that in the UK. I think that for me is enough of a reason to overlook a lack of reviews and just give them a try. They're clearly still a newer provider, and every brand has to start somewhere. But I am grateful that they reached out and asked me to test their eSIM. I think it's really nice, because in a market where a lot of providers charge a premium for something, you know, very similar, it's nice to see how refreshingly well priced they are. Don't forget to use my coupon TMoney25. There's a link in the description box. And if you found this video useful, or you know, you're looking forward to saving some money on your next eSIM, then please do give the video a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.